What's up, everybody? Super Scotty here, and I got a new episode of Tales from the Super Scotty Crypt, and today's episode is called The Answer is Blowing in the Wind. And it's going to be about my time working on wind turbines a long time ago. But I still remember a lot of it vividly. It was quite the experience, and there's a lot that happened, and there's a lot of context to it and backstory, so I'm going to try to remember it all and get through it all. If I forget something, I may jump back and be like, oh yeah, I mentioned it, but we'll see how it goes. So anyways, here it is. So I graduated college at the height of the recession, like at the worst possible time. And so right out of school, I went looking for a job, but there was just nothing to be had. Like nobody was hiring. It was miserable. It was terrible. And so in the meantime, I just worked like menial little jobs like cooking and stuff like that while I was looking for a career, basically. And so I did that for like a year or two. And then my dad worked at the school, at the college where I went to actually. And he had a coworker whose husband worked on wind turbines. He was one of the higher ups actually, as far as the techs on, on working on these wind turbines for this particular company out in California, based out of Santa Cruz. And he got in touch with him and got it set up so that like this guy was going to get me a job with them. You know, I had to do training first, to get on with them. And there was 2 trainings that you had to do to be hired by them. First of all is the ropes training, because you have to learn how to be on the ropes, and do everything like that to, hang off the side of the wind turbine and do repairs on the blades and stuff like that. And then also you need the fiberglass training to learn how to actually do the repairs on there. So after about 2 years of just working, just jobs here and there, I got on with these people and they sent me to the training in Santa Cruz first for the ropes training. And they actually paid for it. They paid for my training because the idea was that I was going to be hired on with them. And so that's why they were going to go ahead and cover it. So I was kind of like being groomed to, be part of the company, that sort of thing. And this guy that was getting me in had a lot of pull with the company and everything like that. So, so I go out there, I fly out to Santa Cruz, and we're out there, and from what I think I'd heard at this point, that these guys were kind of like a tight-knit group, like kind of cliquey. They all rock climbed together. They all surfed together. Most of them were from California. A couple of them did live in Santa Cruz, and there was a few of them lived in Santa Cruz. All of them were from California, and they did everything together, but I'm like the odd man out kind of like, so I was kind of wondering how I'd be received, seeing as I'm from like the Southeast, and these guys, they're from California, this and that. And I spent enough time in California growing up to know how people from my region of the country are viewed by Californians. It's not necessarily positive, and I knew that coming in there because like my grandmother lived in California, and we even lived there for a little while when I was a kid growing up. And so I'd go there nearly every year, and even lived out there for a little while when I was young. And I'd seen it before, and you tell somebody where you're from, and then they're just like, oh, okay, like, and they have all these, ideas of who you are already and everything like that. So I knew that, but like, anyways, I figured if these people meet me and we hit it off, they'll get to know who I am, and everything's gonna be cool because I'm actually like. Just this has context to the story too. I'm not making this political, but the context is that I'm actually liberal, and my parents are liberal as well, and I was raised that way. And I'm not one of these people that does something or believes something or thinks something just because my parents did. That would be stupid in my opinion. I just happen to fall in line. My views happen to fall in line with them on this. I do agree on their politics with them, and So I fly out there, and it's my first night out there, and I'm jet lagged, what I'm saying? It's a 3-hour time difference, and plus the flight and everything took a little bit out of me. But all the guys, when we got there, the training started the next morning, and they all wanted to go out and go to like the bars and stuff like that and just have a good time, get to know each other. And so I went out with them. And we went to this like microbrewery in Santa Cruz, like walked around, and maybe a couple other spots. I can't quite remember. Definitely went to this like microbrewery, and had drinks, everything like that, hanging out, and we did it for a little while. And it was probably at least like 9:30 at night, California time, when I was just exhausted because that's already feeling like 12:30 to me. And I'd flown that day, and all the excitement of starting this new journey in life and everything like that had taken a lot out of me. So they were about to go to this other bar that was right across the street from the hotel, and it was like this dive, like hole in the wall thing, and in Santa Cruz, and they were about to go, and I was about to go with them. And I was debating, and I was like, dude, guys, I want to, but like, man, I'm just so tired. Like, I got to go crash. And I might have like, gotten out of a situation by doing that, because the next morning we wake up and one of the guys that was with the group that went to that bar, he wasn't going to make it to the training not because he had too much to drink, because he got his teeth knocked out with a pool cue. Yeah. They never said exactly what they were doing. They said they were talking to some girl, and from the sense of it that I get, they were talking to some guy's girl, and like he got mad or something like that, and took a pull cue across his face. And that next morning when we got there, his jaw was wired shut. Like, I got to see him, and I was like, duh. And like one of the other guys that was there at the time, he said he'll never forget the sound of this guy's teeth hitting the floor, like clanking on the floor, like after he got knocked with the pull cue, like his teeth hitting the floor. So he didn't get to do the training. He was a nice guy and everything like that, and I ended up meeting up with him again later on down the line, and we'll get to that. But yeah, so that's how training started in Santa Cruz. And anyways, all right, so we get to the start of the training, and let me tell you, when all these moves you got to make, like the training facility, the height of it was probably like 25 to 30 feet high. So like, when you're out there on the turbine in real life, you're going to be hanging from 300 feet. But for practice sake, circumstances, it's only like 25, 30 feet high. But you can still do all the moves, learn all the, technicalities and all your equipment, your gear, and all that kind of stuff while you're training like at 25, 30 feet or whatever. And they taught us all the moves, all the things you got to do. But I'm telling you, when you're not used to doing these, and at the time, I wasn't in the greatest of shape. I was a little bit, not overweight, but like just not in great shape. Like these guys are in excellent shape to do this work. Like I'm talking about like super fit, like, and they do it all the time, so I wasn't in that type of situation. I'd been working out, but like I hadn't been like doing stuff like they've been doing. And so when you're doing these minute movements, especially like getting in and out of and God, for the life of me, I could look it up, but I've forgotten the name of the thing that goes on your chest. Your main line goes in it, and it's got teeth in it that keeps you from falling. You can, and I even the way it works. Like I think there was like a mechanism on there that released the teeth, and then you could slide, and rappel down. But like you could always go up, if I recall. You can always go up. And as far as like sliding down, and then like on your backup, you have these things called shunts, which is just like this little piece of metal that would catch you on your backup line. But yeah, I'm foggy on like exactly how that worked, even though I did a bunch of stuff with it. But the point of what this is though, getting in and out of it, getting your rope in and out of it while you're hanging, you have to like move tension off the rope, if I recall, because yeah, that's what you got to do. You got to get tension off the rope to get the teeth out. And I wasn't good with making the movement, like the latch or whatever. I wasn't used to like doing that and getting the tension. Like I was just learning, you know what I'm saying? So I was constantly having to like hold myself up and get the tension off the rope longer than the other guys who could do it real quickly. And so it was like the hardest strain I've ever put on my left arm that I've ever been through in my life. And for such long periods of time, I'm talking about just like your body weight on it, and everything like that, and you're like holding it. And after that, and it took everything I had to do this training, really, it really did, like physically. And I got through it, I passed and everything like that and got my certification. But literally for like the next year, I could feel that in my arm, like on the tendon. And it was not just the muscle, it was like the tension on the tendon was like hurting for like, not where I couldn't do things, but I could feel it, you know what I'm saying, for like a year plus, like after that. So anyway, so that's done. So I fly back home, and I go to time passes, and I'm talking to this guy. I'm in contact with this guy, not the guy that got me on, that my dad knew, that my dad knew, but this other guy in the company was the one who was supposed to be in charge of putting me on a job and hiring me and stuff like that. But I still had to go to the fiberglass training in Reno and get that cert. Okay, and I met some nice guys, from in guys within anybody can come to this training, pay them and come to this training and get their rope certification at this location, right? But a lot of them were in-house guys. It was at this company's facility was where the training was, but not everybody worked for them that was at the training, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of them did. They were doing in-house training. They were training their own people up to get them higher certifications and stuff like that. So I met a good bit of the crew that worked for this particular company, and I'm not going to say the company's name because honestly, I have a sour taste in my mouth with it. You'll see why about all this, like after the fact. But some of the guys were cool, you know what I'm saying, like especially the ones that I met at the rope training. But then we go to Reno, and I want to say there was like one or two guys that were at the ropes training were at Reno too that I'd met before. In fact, yeah, I think that's the case. But then I met a whole other new set of people too that worked for the same company, and there's this. That's where things started to get a little bit dicey or whatever. So we're in there. We're in Reno doing the fiberglass training, fiberglass repair, going to classes and stuff like that. And we go out to dinner at night and chum it up, having discussions, having a good time, that sort of thing, as best we can. And why I mentioned the political thing earlier is because, like I said, I wasn't sure how I'd be received because I know how people from California view people from like the Southeast and have all these preconceived notions about, the way I may be or think and stuff like that. And we were sitting there at dinner one night, and this one guy, I could already tell, like, he kind of just seemed like he might not like me. I wasn't sure, but like, I'm just meeting these new people. Most of them were cool, and this one dude was real cool. And we'd like, hang out in each other's hotel rooms and stuff, and it was a good time. But this one guy in particular was like, something was a little off about him. And we're sitting there one night at dinner, and I thought they were, getting to know me and figured that I was like cool and everything like that. I'm not necessarily like your stereotypical person from the Southeast. I'm liberal, it's mostly conservative where I come from. I'm not like that. I wasn't, raised that way, and nor do I think that way. But back where I was staying recently before that, not long before that, I had cable television, okay? So the way it works on cable television, I don't think anybody has it anymore, is when there's like a guide channel, and then there's all the channels, but you got to either type in the number or flip through the channels to get to the channel that you want to see. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like a lot of my time when I'm looking on the TV, like what I would do is just channel press, until I found something that I liked on there. I wouldn't necessarily like look at the guide and wait for it to scroll through and then be like, oh, I need channel, this, whatever. And so I would just flip channels. And what would happen, I don't remember what channel this was on, but y'all remember Nancy Grace? Like, her channel would come on as I'm flipping through the channels, and I would see it, and I just hate everything she says. You know what I'm saying? Like this woman is just awful, like just an awful, awful person, in my opinion. Maybe if you know her personally, she might not be, but as far as her viewpoints on this show, so I would stop on it and just like watch it for just a second, being like, you know what I'm saying? Like just hating everything she's saying, just because, like, in my opinion, you got to know what the opposition's talking about if you want to know anything. You know what I'm saying? If you want to have an opinion yourself, you got to at least know what they're coming with. And so we were sitting there at dinner one night, and I thought they like realized at this point that I was like a liberal, you know what I'm saying? Like I was like them more or less, and so something came up and I made a joke about Nancy Grace. Like I was like, oh well, you know what Nancy Grace says is blah blah blah. You know, like as a joke, right? You know, because I thought we all are on the same page here. And there was just kind of like this like hush over the table and everything like that. And then like some time goes by and I just put it back all together. Like I guess they don't know me that well, and they think I'm I'm from South Carolina, and I made a comment about Nancy Grace, and I was like, wait, guys, he's like, y'all know I'm a liberal, right? And they're like, oh, I don't know. Well, why do you watch? You're the one that watches Nancy Grace and everything like that. And I'm just like, no, bro. Like, I don't watch it. It's not like I tune in like to enjoy it or something like that. What I just described, the cable thing, and I think I tried like explaining that, but they didn't. I don't think it got through to them, especially this one guy. You know what I'm saying? And there's a deep rooted reason this one guy had even more like dislike for for me in this situation, and it comes back to like this stuff I evaluated about his like his whole psyche. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff that I evaluated about his whole psyche, getting to know him more later on down the road. Okay, like on the job. You'll see what happens. But the thing about these guys is too, and I've seen this a lot, is like, it's like a see, I'm a liberal for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to look like a liberal. I'm not saying stuff because it's what the left normally says, and therefore I'm just putting my liberal hat on and being like, yeah, that's what I agree with too, No, I'm not trying to look like these guys. For them, it's like a competition to see, and I've seen this a lot among so-called liberals, is like a competition to see who can be Captain Super Liberal. You know what I'm saying? I'm the best liberal, like it's a competition or some shit. And like, for me, that's not what it's about. Being a liberal for me is about making your own mind up about what is the right thing to do and doing that thing, and being true to yourself about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and being a humanitarian, caring about other people, helping those less fortunate. That to me are all like liberal ideals. And like, you see something and you evaluate it yourself, you know what the right thing to do is. And if you don't know what the right thing to do is, use logic to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you use your logic. And like, that to me is what being a liberal is all about. Not trying to look like the best liberal or be viewed as the best liberal. That's not what a liberal, that's a poser. You know what I'm saying? That's a straight up poser. And I'm not saying that they weren't necessarily liberal, but they're trying to look like super duper liberal. And like, I'm just like, nah, I'm not about all that. So the thing is like, so what I'm saying about this is that I'm not just going to go along with it because the left says so. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to make my own mind up about it. And I'm not going to disagree with someone just because it's an age-old policy that the right goes with. I'm not going to just discredit it because it's a right type policy, and like, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm left wing, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's stupid, like whatever. I'm not going to do that. I'm still going to look at what they say, determine, like evaluate it and determine if it's right or wrong. And the funny thing about it is like, then you decide, are you a liberal or are you a conservative? After you take all your viewpoints and then you find out who you align with. And for me, it's the left, okay? You know what I'm saying? But that's not to say that there is even like one pretty big arguing point that I actually agree with the right on. There is. I'm not going to get into that today, but I'm not discrediting that just because it's something that most of the people that are conservative believe. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to discredit something just for that reason. So anyways, so now I think that they got this kind of like picture of me that I felt is completely wrong. You know what I'm saying? And another thing is too, is like, you can't generalize about somebody being from somewhere or being a part of a group of people and say like, oh, they're like this because of everybody else around them or however they identify like that. No, you have to look at everybody as an individual case, like case by case basis. Like, that's how you determine people, on their merits, on who they are. And the funniest part about it is like, the very thing that they think about me being from the South is
what, the possible prejudice that they might think that I would have coming from a conservative background, area that is, they're doing that. They're prejudging me based on where I'm from. They're the ones being prejudiced, and they don't get that. Like, you know what I'm saying? So the very thing that they're like holding against me is what they are actually doing when I'm not. You see what I'm saying? You see how stupid that is? Like, if the fact that they don't see that, like they're exercising prejudice. You know what I'm saying? Like, against me, because I'm from the South, so therefore I'm supposed to be like a certain type of way. Prejudice, possibly. There are people down here with issues, but that's not everybody. There's good people down here. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's both sides, and I'm not going to say just because someone's conservative they're a bad person. No, that's not true. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to go by a case basis and everything. Like, of course, coming from here, I grew up with conservative people, and I had to make friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I had to be friends with all kinds of people, and so like it's not like you just hang out a hole up in a hole by yourself and like not talk to anybody. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm able to see both sides of the equation. Like, I'm able to, I can see where they're coming from, at least. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can see that. I can step inside their shoes and see where they're coming from. I'm going to argue my point and say like, no, I disagree. But you know what I'm saying? But at least I can see both sides of the equation. My point being is like being able to see this from both sides, being a liberal from the South where it's mostly conservative, gives me the ability to realize that there's some of these guys, like these guys right here, who kind of have their head up their ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're just trying to look liberal, and they're not actually, like, they might still be liberal, but they're trying to look more so than look more than they are. And and that to me is, if you're not true to yourself, and that's what being a liberal to me is, being true to yourself. Like, at the end of the day, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what, not, you don't lie to yourself about anything. You know what I'm saying? And I try not to. And like, that's like a staple of my character, is like, I don't lie to myself. Like ever. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to, no, I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't lie to myself. That would be not be who I am. You know what I'm saying? Like, I keep it real, like, straight up. And, but moving forward, so we finished anyways. So I finished the training, at Reno. So now I got my 2 certs. Now it's time to get me onto the job, with this company. And I've been in contact with this guy, this whole time. He's supposed to be, getting back to me as soon as he finds a slot open for me. He's going to get me out there. And the way it works is, no matter where you live in the country, they fly you to the job site, pay for everything, of course, and fly you out there, and fly everybody out there, and they all work at this location. And then you work out there for like, varying amounts of time, but like from what I gathered later, it's supposed to be like a month at a time. Like, you might get 6 months of work if you're working good, like, out of the year, and then other 6 months you can go work another job or do whatever you want, or not work, but you make good money doing this job, so you might only have to work those 6 months. It's up to you. But I'm in contact with this guy, and he's like flaky as far as like getting back to me a few times, and I'm waiting. Every day I'm expecting, like, I'm gonna go on this job. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just waiting for that to happen. So in the meantime, I'm sitting at the house. I'd go work out and stuff like that and do various activities, but I wasn't working. And because I every day I thought, it was like, maybe it's tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? And all this time goes by, like a month or two, and I haven't heard from this guy in a while, and he hasn't like answered some of my stuff. And finally, like, I get in contact. I don't remember if I got in contact with him or somebody else in the company, but he left the company and didn't tell me, and didn't tell anybody else that I'm supposed to be getting on a job and stuff like that. And I'm just sitting here with, like, waiting around, waiting for this job. He never told me or anyone else that, that he was in charge of getting me. That was one of his things on his, like, to-do list, was to get me out there on a job. So after he left the company and didn't tell me or anybody else or anybody about me, the guy that my dad that got me on started in the whole situation was still there. And I think I ended up getting in contact with him and telling him what happened. And finally they get me on a job. So after all that, but the point is that, like, I got a little bit out of shape just sitting around waiting. And this is a physically demanding job. I mean, fast forward to the end and to this day right now, this is the most physically demanding thing I've ever, when I actually went on the job. Like, the training was hard enough, but when I actually went on the job, that is the most physically demanding thing I've done in my life. Like, straight up, there's nothing that compares to it. And so finally I get this job, right? And the job site is in Minnesota, just across the border from Iowa, like just north of Iowa. But the place that we ended up staying was in Iowa, and then we would drive to the site, every morning to go work on the turbines. And they pay for your lodging while you're there. They pay for your flight. Every day you get I don't know how you say it, if it's stipend or stipend. You got like a really good, solid, like hefty stipend for every single day for food and incidentals. Your hourly pay that you started out was great. We work a bunch of overtime too. You get paid for that. Some guys worked long enough to get double time. And even there's even standby pay for when the wind gets up too high, or or it's raining, or the weather conditions are no good. I mean, when the wind gets high, they want to run the turbines and get the energy out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and make money like that. So that's another. And there's a safety issue when you're up there with the wind blowing too hard. So there's multiple reasons why they want to run the turbines and don't want you up there on those days. But you get standby pay, so you get paid for a full day's work. But it's like about half. It's a little less than half your normal pay is what your standby pay is on those days. But still, you can go do whatever you want. But we'll get to that. Like one of the days we went and played golf, like on a standby day when the wind was too high, where we couldn't go work. And yeah, so I get flown out to Iowa. This is the point I was trying to make. The lodging thing. Some of the guys made their own lodging. In other words, like, this one guy had a van that he slept in, and so he got the money back from that too. You know what I'm saying? So whatever would have been spent on his lodging, he got paid in his pocket and just stayed in his van, like drove his van out to the site and did it like that. So that was a pretty good idea. He had like a bed in there. It's like one of those old pop-up ones, I think it was. But the point I was trying to get to is that one guy, actually the guy that got his teeth knocked out, was on the job with me out there in Iowa all these months later. And he found us in Iowa. He found us a spot that was way cheaper than the hotel. We all shared this house, right? And it's a pyramid house. This town is, I think it was called Clear Lake, Iowa. Yeah, I think it was called Clear Lake, Iowa. And there's this pyramid house. It's a house shaped like a pyramid. It's big. It's got a bunch of bedrooms in it and everything like that. And we all stayed in there, and it was pretty cool. And oddly enough, the place that we that town Clear Lake, I think it was called the Crystal Ballroom or something like that. There's a venue right down the street from us, right? And actually what it was the last place that Buddy Holly ever played a show. And when he was flying out of there, I think that's when his plane crashed, is like what the story was. And I think I've looked it up since then, and I think that is actually the case. And people were there while we were, there was some pretty good acts come through there, actually. And this place is like in the middle of nowhere. And like when we drove across the border to go to the wind turbine farm, it's like in the middle of a cornfield. You know what I'm saying? Way out in the middle of nowhere. And I felt like this place was in the middle of nowhere as well, like this part of Iowa. But yet, oddly enough, while we were there, it was Slash was playing there. I think it was called the Crystal Ballroom. Slash was playing. Like, we missed him. It was like a day or two. Like, we didn't find out till like the next day or the day after that like Slash was actually there. And the thing that cracks me up about that is that there's like this South Park episode talking about like they're like, hey man, I saw Slash at such and such, and it's like, what? He was in some other like part of the country or something like that last night. Like, how's that possible? And it's like, and the whole episode's about he's actually Wunder Slash, like Santa Claus, and he can be anywhere at any time. Like he's like a mythical character, and I can like verify that, like what I'm saying in jest, but he was where I was at, like in Iowa, in this random ass place, Slash was there. And like, you know, so I thought that was pretty funny. Cause that South Park episode came out years later, but like, it was like, I was like, damn, dude, he was where I was at when I was like in the middle of nowhere in Iowa. So like it checks out, you know, like, and the Los Lonely Boys were there when we walked by one time while they were playing. Like we could hear them and see them inside and everything like that. But we never went. We wanted to go to one of the a show that was there while we were there, but we never went. And I was out there for a month on the job. But this is where it gets interesting. So we're staying in the Pyramid House. And finally, it's my time to go up on the turbine. You know what I'm saying? I've trained at about 25, 30 feet. And this is my first day up. So we get out there and we're going and we go to work. And the first 2 weeks are technically training. So you don't get paid as much for your first 2 weeks. And then in the second 2 weeks, you get on at full pay. I mean, you're still paid pretty nice. Like the pay on the money on this was really good. Like it really is. And those level 2s and level 3s, they're making even more, like way more. And so it's a good job for everybody, but the pay is merited because you'll see why. Like you will see why. So we get to the site, and the one guy who got his teeth knocked out was my supervisor and his friend. They were real tight knit. Those two guys were the ones overviewing me and this other rookie. Okay, so we trained with them for the first 2 weeks. So that's my first day up, right? And the way it works is you got all your gear, your ropes, all your tools. Like we have like power sanders and like all kinds of fucking tools. And the extension cord that's got to go all the way down to the, 300 feet of extension cord, all this type of gear. It's crazy. And, a main rope and a backup rope, those are over 300 feet apiece. Tons of tools, all your gear. So you're carrying all that, right? And then you got to wear, your boots, your like Carhartt pants, a shirt or a sweatshirt to go out there and do the work. But while you're inside the tower, climbing up the tower, and the thing is, there's an elevator inside that thing, like a mini lift. But we weren't nobody was certified to use it, like in this company. Like we couldn't use it, so we had to climb. We had to climb 300 fucking feet. 300, sorry. I lost my train of thought. We had to climb 300 feet, carrying like 40 pounds of gear. And then when you're inside the tower, you got to wear a fire retardant suit on top of everything else, for safety reasons or whatever. And the way it is in the tower is like, it's cold, this is Minnesota, and it was like October or September, October, I can't remember. It gets fairly chilly. It's fairly chilly at that point in time. And I think it was end of September going into October. And also, if the temperature's too low, we can't work either, and that's another thing. And so it's fairly cold out there, and that's all well and good. And so you go inside and you got your fire retardant suit on top of everything else, but you want to dress warmly for when you get outside, and your regular clothes underneath the fire retardant suit. You want to dress warmly, so you got to wear all that stuff and put the fire retardant suit on. But then we got to climb 300 feet up a ladder, carrying all this gear. I shit you not, like. It takes like 20 minutes to climb the damn thing, and we have to take like breaks, and there's levels where you can sit down and kind of like rest off the ladder, and you latch yourself into the ladder, like there's a cable and everything like that. But there's like stops along the way where you can sit down, and take a breather, and then we go. But I think the whole process usually always took about 20 minutes to get up there, and you're carrying a shitload of gear, all this heavy stuff, and by the time you get up there, the engine room is up top where the gears are turning. You know what I'm saying? When the wind turbine turns, it turns these gears in there, which generates electricity, etc. But as you rise in the tower, it gets hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter. And at the top in the engine room, like where your final destination up there, it's like 100 degrees. Dude, you're climbing, exerting all this energy, climbing up there, you sweat through everything. Even my FR suit was like soaked by the time I would get to the top of the tower. And then you got to go outside and get out there and do the work, and you're soaking wet, and the wind's blowing, and it's cold as hell in Minnesota. It was probably about mid 40s, most days. If it got much colder than that, we couldn't work. But So it's like this drastic change in like, going from being like super hot, super exhausted to going out there and freezing your ass off, as soon as you get outside. And this is my first day up, so I hadn't done anything like this before. And, it was already, like, even just getting up there, I was like, geez. And it's like, now we're about to start working for like 8 to 10 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like dying, you know what I'm saying? Like my very first day up. So what you do is like we tie the rope inside like the engine room. There's like, you kind of just like tie it where you can tie your ropes up where, and they taught us the knots and everything like that. You kind of tie your ropes up like wherever you think's a good spot, like on some like pipes or like, metal pieces. There's not like, if there wasn't like set up like hooks or like a system that you tie, like everybody rope A here, rope B here, blah, 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 blah. No, it was like, dude, we just tied them in random places. And but made sure, of course, that they were sturdy and everything like that. And you got your main line, you got your backup line. And so we did all that. And what you do is you use the computer before you get in there to stop the blades from turning. Okay, you stop them with the but as a fail-safe, when you get up to the top, there's this huge pin, metal pin, that you like wheel into one of the slots that stop. This is a double. It's like 2 ways to make sure that the turbine isn't going to run while you're up there, because that would be bad. And so we did both of those things, and it stops the blades. Now, ideally, the one you're working on would be, you stop it so the one that you need to work on is the one going straight down. So there's 3 of them. There's three blades to the wind turbine. And the one that you want it to be straight down, because that's the one you're going to be able to work on. You can't work on these ones up here, obviously. And when it's time to work on those ones, you have to go down there, rotate it, you know what I'm saying? Then put the pin, stop the computer, put the pin back in, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is like, they don't necessarily, sometimes they're perfectly straight, but sometimes it's just a little bit tilted, right? You know what I'm saying? Like it's not the blade, one of the wings, it doesn't hang perfectly straight. So in that situation, you kind of like, your rope's going to hang straight based on your weight when you're hanging out there. But in that situation, you kind of like got to like throw something around it and like, I had a suction cup is what I like to use. Another thing we use is like this little rope thing that kind of like held us to it. And you're kind of like off kilter, like hang like to the side type thing while you're working on it. And the funny thing is like, while you're working on the blade, yeah, you're 300 feet in the air and there's nothing below your feet. You know what I'm saying? It's straight down. And let me tell you, if you haven't been up 300 feet, which I know a lot of buildings are taller than that, but it may seem or not seem that high, but I'm telling you, the car looks like a thimble from up there. Like it's high. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty damn high up. Like 300 feet is pretty solid. And like, I just remember looking at the car and being like, damn, that thing looks like a damn thimble, like from up here. But the thing is when you're on the blade, it's right in front of you and you're doing repairs, we're sanding, we're doing fiberglass repairs, all this kind of stuff. It feels like something's under you. Like there's some sense of stability. And when you rappel down though, that's when you're in free fall mode. Like after you get like 10 feet below the blade and the whole rest of the way down, you're in free space. There's nothing here, nothing. There's just the rope, and that doesn't really even feel like it's there. And you're just floating in space. Like that's the scary part, is going down. Like for me, like that's the part where I felt like now I'm like all alone. You know what I'm saying? And when the blade is tilted just a little bit, if you let go of it, you're going to swing a little bit. And this happened to me where I swung and I think I hit the tower. Like I think I did, not hard, but I swung off the, to releasing the tension as far as like coming off the blade when it wasn't hanging perfectly straight. It made me swing and I like hit the tower one time doing that. And this other time when I was going down, somehow the ropes got like not tangled, but like somehow they got twisted to a point where once I started rappelling down, I started spinning. And I couldn't get out of the spin. I'm spinning faster and faster and faster, and it's just not stopping. And I was like telling like the dudes, I was like, hey, like what do I do about this? They're like, yeah, it happens, but some of the guys like pull the 2 ropes apart like this, and it kind of slows down the spin or can stop it, but you just kind of gotta figure it out, man. And like I'm just like, and I got out of that one. But go back to my very first day up. So finally we worked up there like 8 hours or whatever. And if you got to go to the bath, a lot of guys, if you have to go number 1, they bring like a Gatorade bottle with them, and they just pee in it up there, because like otherwise you're gonna have to rappel all the way down, go use the bathroom, and then climb all the way back up again, and that would suck. So if you got to go number 2, that's that's the situation you're sitting in. But we brought our lunch up there with us too, and we'd eat like while you're hanging up in the air. You're just like eating food, hanging 300 feet up in the air or whatever. And so my nerves are shot. After this day is finally done, they're like, all right, we're wrapping up. Let's rappel down. And I was rappelling down slowly because I'd never done it before from that height, and nervous, like kind of jittery and everything like that. And the level 3s, like we were level 1, just me and this other rookie kid, and there was 2 level 3s with us. The guy with the teeth thing, and then his buddy, and those dudes were really cool. They were awesome, really helpful. Taught us everything like that. And they rappelled down so fast, they got down there way before me, and I guess they went to did something with the car, or like they left. Like I wasn't even down to the ground yet, and they were already like gone. They didn't leave, like they were coming back, but they weren't anywhere to be seen. So one thing they taught us in training, and I had no idea why, nobody explained why, was you tie an end knot at the very end of your rope. You tie a knot, all right? It's called an end knot. And I didn't know why, but I went with my training and I tied the end knots, right? And so I'm getting closer and closer to the ground now. I'm like, 50 feet, 40 feet, 30. I'm like, oh my God, what a relief. You know what I'm saying? I'm so ready for this day to be done. My nerves are just shot because I wasn't used to this yet. I was fully prepared to keep doing it, but like it was just like that first day, you know what I'm saying? I was just ready to get back on the ground, have something under my feet, you know what I mean? And I'm getting closer and closer to the ground, and I'm about, 15 feet up still, almost there, like, yes, here we go. And all of a sudden, boom. I look down, my end knot is in my, I know, like I said, I forgot the name of this thing. My end knot's right there. I hit the end of my rope, and I'm still 12 feet off the ground. Like, what? Why is my rope not hanging down on the ground like everybody else's? My rope was short. Okay, and I'll explain all this, like how this happened, in just a minute. So now my backup rope is long enough, and then they say, and it's arbitrary which one you choose for your main and your backup, because maybe there's some guys that's like, oh, my blue one's always my main, my red one's always my backup, but they told me, it's like, it doesn't matter which one you pick, you can just pick either one, and you got 2 good ropes, you know what I'm saying? So the one I happened to pick for my main was like 40 feet shorter than it was supposed to be, at least. You know what I'm saying? Because there's supposed to be a bunch of slack on the ground too, just in case. So I hit this end knot, and I'm sitting there hanging, and I'm like, what the fuck? This is the last thing I want to have happen right now when I'm just trying to get down on my very first day on the job. Very last thing, I was seeing what the time was at on this video. Okay, the very last thing I want to have happen is this. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, what do I do? And those 2 guys were gone. The 2 level 3s were gone. It was just me and the rookie, and he'd hit the ground by now. And so I'm like, dude, what is this? Like, why's my, what's going on? And neither one of us knew what the hell was going on. And they had taught us in training how to do a rope to rope transfer. Now that is like, you slide out of the one rope, with I forget exactly how we did it, but essentially you slide out of the one rope until the other rope catches tension, right? Well, the problem with that is that was with ropes with slack below them. This was the end of my rope. There was no sliding out of it. And if I slid out of it, this backup rope wasn't going to catch in time before I hit the ground. There's mad slack on the backup rope. But see, because your weight is all on the main rope, so it's tight, and these ropes stretch. This other one's been blown by the wind. So if I was to slide out of this one, trying to slide into this one, I would fall. I mean, I wouldn't be able to slide. There's no more room for me to slide to this rope until this rope catches tension. You see what I'm saying? You would slide until this rope catches tension, and then you get locked into this one. That's how it works. That wasn't an option because, like, I'm at the end of my rope. So nobody had taught us anything to do, what to do in this situation. So I'm like, what the fuck do we do? You know what I'm saying? This is like basically like like everything I didn't, like a nightmare type shit. And granted, I'm only 12 feet off the ground, 12 to 15 feet off the ground. But still, it's like I just really wanted to be down on the ground this day. And so what we ended up doing was the other guy, the rookie that was with me, I took a hold of my backup rope, and he as he told me, he swung me over, and there was actually steps leading up to the tower that were about 6 feet high. And then there's another door that was about another 6-7 feet high or so, that you go into the tower with. And it was about 2 inches wide, this door. So we opened the door, he swung me over to it, and it was like the last bit of my tippy toes I was balancing on this door, like on the top of this 2-inch door, and the teeth were all ingrained into the rope, and you have to get the tension off the rope to get out of it, right? And when I tell you that I was on the very tippest that I could by the millimeter, and I'm balancing on a 2-inch wide door, and as soon as I get out of this thing too, I could fall and tumble again. And the other thing is too, if I hadn't tied my end knot or tried to slide out of it, which I wouldn't have done that because obviously that would just mean I would fall. But even from 12 to 15 feet, dude, if you fall the wrong way, especially if you're not expecting it, if I hadn't tied that end knot, you could be in a wheelchair, like straight up. It's like if your back is like, face in the seated position you're kind of in when you're rappelling, you wouldn't have time to like spin around or catch yourself or get your feet down there. If you didn't see it coming, you'd just probably fall around your ass, and like it could do something to your tailbone, your back, anything. You could end up in a wheelchair pretty easy from that height. That's pretty high, to fall from. And so like it was the last bit of like energy and strength and balance and on my tippiest of toes and all the strength I had to get the tension off this rope to get out of there, that I had by the millimeter, I'm telling you, is how I got out of this thing. I finally got out of it, and like I immediately went straight down and grabbed the door and was still balancing on it, and then jumped off the door onto the top of the steps and walked down the steps, and I got out of it. And I was like, what the fuck just happened? So I had to file an incident report. I was like, and what had happened is, and here's what they tried to do, because in this situation, they could have been liable for something, you know what I'm saying? They tried to tell me when I was filing the incident report, oh, you're supposed to, like the higher ups back, because the call got made back to the company back in Santa Cruz. They tried to tell me, oh, well, it's your fault because, you're supposed to walk your ropes out every day, every morning before, you go out there. You're supposed to walk all 350 feet of rope out and inspect the ropes, both ropes, walk all the way down the line and inspect your ropes before you go up there. So it's your fault, you know what I'm saying? Well, no training part did they tell me about that. Nobody in the company did it. Nobody said it. No, there was no mention of that by anybody ever. And none of the level 3s were doing it. Nobody did this. And nobody told me about it. And so, but they're trying to cover their ass by telling me like, oh yeah, that's what you were supposed to do. They're just, it's total bullshit. And that's one of the gripes I have with this company. I mean, it's possible there could have been like a lawsuit there. So what had happened is they gave me some fucking guy's retired ropes. They got mixed back into the fray with the good new, like not necessarily new ropes, but the good ropes. These ropes were never supposed to be used again. They were called what's called retired ropes, and they were never supposed to be used again. And they made a big fucking mistake. That could have ended badly. You know what I'm saying? Being up there in retired ropes, there's so many other things that could have happened. And here's the kicker. Like I said, it's arbitrary which one you use, your main and your backup. So once they found out that I'd been retired ropes, they gave me a new set of ropes. But we used the ropes, those retired ropes, to haul shit on the pulley, like haul equipment up there in a bucket and everything like that. They're hauling like the next day or two. They're using the one that was my backup rope. They're hauling shit up there and it comes through the pulley. There's a gash halfway through the rope. So if I'd just by chance, used the one with the gash in it, it might have held, maybe. You know what I'm saying? These are strong ropes. But at the very least, if it had snapped, like I would have fallen for, before the tension catches on the next one, I would have fallen at least 30 feet before my backup rope catches me, which would have been scary as hell. Yeah, it might in the shunt, if the shunt, which is which catches you on your backup rope, when it kicks in, by the time it kicks in, you're going to have fallen 30 feet, at least, because there's at least 30 feet of slack before the tension catches. And even then, so say I did that and then somehow transferred to my other rope, I still would have been in the same predicament coming down at the bottom where my end knot was. The backup rope, if I had switched them, used them the other way, would have still been like 12, 15 feet off the ground. And I still would have had to do the same thing. As like this was bullshit, like complete fucking bullshit. That they gave me these retired ropes and then tried to tell me it was my fault. You know what I'm saying? So that already just put a real sour taste in my mouth about this company and everything like that. So there's a lot more that happens after this going forward. I think I'm gonna have to make this like a 2-part video this time because it's so long already, and yeah, I'm gonna have to make this one a 2-parter, and that's the end of part 1 for today. So yeah, thanks for listening. I'm gonna put links to my music up in the corners here, and give that a listen. But I will be coming soon with part 2 of this video and finish the whole story because a good bit of other stuff happened while we were there, and it kind of tells the story of how I ended up getting to where I am today, more or less. And so yeah, all right, that's the end of the story for today, and I hope you guys have a good one. I'm kind of leaving you on like a cliffhanger type thing, but have a good one, and I will talk to you again soon. All right, bye.